Second chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Shrotam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Siddhi Antes. Hare Krishna. So the merciful Vaishnavas, I'm here to share and learn Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, and text 22 and 23. So we will recite the verse. Yadi prayasyan. Can we repeat like that way? Yadi paramestayam. Yadi prayasyan paramestayam. Vaihayasana mutayad viharam. Astadipatyam gunasannivaye. Sahaiva gacchen manasendriyaischa. You want to recite once?
Yadi prayasa nipaparmeshyam. Yadi prayasa nipaparmeshyam. Vaihayasanam uttayad viharam.
Vaihasyanam utyad viharam.
Astadipatyam gunasannivaye.
Astadipatyam gunasannivaye. Sahaiva gacchen manasendriyaischa. Anybody would like to recite, Prabhu?
Yadi prayasyan nipaparameshyam.
Yadi prayasyan nipaparameshyam. Vaihayasanam utayad viharam. Astadipatyam gunasannivaye. Sahaiva gacchen manasendriyaischa.
Yadi prayasyam nipaparameshyam.
Yadi prayasyan nipaparameshyam.
Vahayasanam utayad viharam.
Vahayasanam utayad viharam.
Astadipatyam gunasannivaye.
Astadipatyam gunasannivaye. Sahaiva gacchen manasendriyascha. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. However, O King, if a yogi maintains a desire for improved material enjoyments, like transference to the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, or the achievement of the eightfold perfections, travel in outer space with the Vaihayasas, or a situation in one of the millions of planets, then he has to take away with him the materially molded mind and senses. Purport. In the upper status of the planetary systems, there are facilities thousands and thousands of times greater for material enjoyments than in the lower planetary systems. The topmost planetary system consists of planets like Brahmaloka and Dhruvaloka, the pole star, and all of them are situated beyond Maharloka. The inhabitants of those planets are empowered with eightfold achievements of mystic perfection. They do not have to learn and practice the mystic process of yoga perfection and achieve the power of becoming small like a particle, Anima Siddhi, or lighter than a soft feather, Lagima Siddhi. They do not have to get anything and everything from anywhere and everywhere, Prapti Siddhi, to become heavier than the heaviest, Mahima Siddhi, To act freely, even to create something wonderful or to annihilate anything at will, Isistva Siddhi. To control all material elements, Vasishtva Siddhi. To possess such power as will never be frustrated in any desire, Prakamya Siddhi. Or to assume any shape or form, one may even whimsically desire Kamavashyita Siddhi. All these expediencies are as common as natural gifts for the inhabitants of those higher planets. They do not require any mechanical help to travel in outer space, and they can move and travel at will from one planet to another planet within no time. The inhabitants of the earth cannot move even to the nearest planet except by mechanical vehicles like spacecrafts. But the highly talented inhabitants of such higher planets can do everything very easily. Since a materialist is generally inquisitive to experience what is actually in such planetary systems, he wants to see everything personally. As inquisitive person tour all over the world to gain direct local experience, the less intelligent transcendentalists similarly desire to have some experience of those planets about which he has heard so many wonderful things. The yogi can, however, easily fulfill his desire by going there with the present materialistic mind and senses. The prime inclination of the materialistic mind is to lord it over the material world, and all the siddhis mentioned above are features of domination over the world. The devotees of the Lord are not ambitious to dominate a false and temporary phenomenon. On the contrary, a devotees want to be nominated by the supreme predominator, the Lord. A desire to serve the Lord, the supreme predominator, is spiritual or transcendental, and one has to attain this purification of the mind and the senses to get admission into the spiritual kingdom. With the materialistic mind, one can reach the best planet in the universe, but no one can enter into the kingdom of God. Senses are called spiritually purified when they are not involved in sense gratification. Senses require engagements, and when the senses are engaged totally in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they have no choice to become contaminated by material infections. So we'll also read the translation and the purport for next verse, which is 23. The transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. As such, by the strength of their devotional service, austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge, their movements are unrestricted within and beyond the material worlds. The fruitive workers or the gross materialist can never move in such an unrestricted manner. So, purport. The materialistic scientists endeavor to reach other planets by mechanical vehicles is only a futile attempt. One can, however, reach heavenly planets by virtuous activities, but one can never expect to go beyond Swarga or Janaloka by such mechanical or materialistic activities, either gross or subtle. The transcendentalists, who have nothing to do with the gross material body, can move anywhere within or beyond the material worlds. Within the material worlds, they move in the planetary systems of the Mahar, Janas, Tapas, and Satyaloka, and beyond the material worlds, they can move in Vaikunthas as unrestricted spacemen. Narada Muni is one of the examples of such spacemen, and Durvasa Muni is one of such mystics. By the strength of devotional service, austerities, mystic powers, and transcendental knowledge, everyone can move like Narada Muni or Durvasa Muni. It is said that Durvasa Muni traveled throughout the entirety of material space and part of spiritual space within 1 year only. The speed of the transcendentalist can never be attained by the gross or subtle materialistics. Hare Krishna. Okay. So just to recap in this chapter 2, so there are a few verses. I'll just quickly go through it. The chapter 2 is named The Cosmic Manifestation of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 2, canto 2. And the chapter 2 is named The Lord in the Heart. Okay. Here, Shukadeva Goswami again re-establishes the Supreme Lord as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the personality of Godhead residing within the body in the region of the heart and measuring only 8 inches with 4 hands, carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, a conch shell, and a club respectively. He describes how the Paramatma is in our heart. His mouth expresses his happiness, his eyes spreads like a petal of a lotus, and his garments, yellowish like the saffron of a kadamba flower, are bedecked with valuable jewels. His ornaments are all made of gold, set with jewels, and he wears a glowing headdress and earrings. Then his lotus feet are placed over the holes of the lotus-like hearts of great mystics. On his chest is the Kaustuba jewel engraved with a beautiful calf, and there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers. He is well decorated with an ornamental wreath about his waist and rings studded with valuable jewels on his fingers. His leglets, his bangles, his oiled hair curling with a bluish tint, and his beautiful smile facing are all very pleasing. And I'm reading some of the essences of chapter 2, so just to get the context. So the Lord's magnificent pastimes and the glowing glances of his smiling face are all indications of his extensive benedictions. One must therefore concentrate on this transcendental form of the Lord as long as the mind can be fixed on him by meditation. So, and Shukadeva Goswami also explains the process of meditation. So the process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to his smiling face. The meditation should be concentrated upon the lotus feet, then the calves, then the thighs, and in this way, higher and higher. The more the mind becomes fixed upon the different parts of the limbs, one after another, the more the intelligence becomes purified. So unless the gross materialistic develops a sense of loving service unto the Supreme Lord, the seer of both the transcendental and material worlds, he should remember and meditate upon the universal form of the Lord at the end of his prescribed duties. Okay. So Shukadeva Goswami explained about how the Paramatma is situated in our heart and how we have to meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right. So in this text 22, we're talking about yogis who maintain a desire for improved material enjoyments, and then how they can be also transferred into the topmost planets like Brahmaloka and the achievement of eightfold perfections. And here. So here in the purport also, Srila Prabhupada talks about the senses requires engagements, right? And when the senses are totally engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, then they don't have any chance to become contaminated by material infections. So the ultimate purpose of our human life is to practice devotional service. So the devotional service, the practice of devotional service is Bhakti Yoga. And what Bhakti Yoga means is controlling our senses so that we can use instead of surrendering to sense gratification, we can use our senses in the loving service of the Lord, so that through that process of Bhakti Yoga or Bhakti Yogi can go into the spiritual kingdom of God, which is Goloka. So that is the essential process. So here there are two types of ways, right? So there is a mechanical way and there is also a devotional way. So the mechanical way, all the karmis, yogis and siddhis, they also attain Krishna. They also aspire to attain Krishna. But at the same time, it's very difficult for them because there are so many pitfalls and endure for all the allurements. So it's very difficult to come out of entanglement of sense gratification. So that is the mechanical way of possibility to achieve Krishna. It's not impossible, but there is a possibility that you can also attain Krishna through the yogendriyas. And the second way is devotional way, which is the bhakti way. So the bhakti yoga, there are two levels of sense gratifications. So one is the gross body sense gratification and the subtle sense gratifications. Okay. So out of all the 7 or 8 billion people on the planet, so only 1 or 2 can achieve the success in the mechanical process. Very few, right? But even if they succeed, they are influenced by Mayavadis, Maya and Mayavadi philosophy, and they have a chance of falling down, right? So the description here is mechanical way. The chances of being success is very minute. So whereas in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that self-realization is attained through Bhakti Yoga and other paths are not recommended. So that is why we have to go the second route, which is devotional way, which is the Bhakti Yoga. Okay. And in Bhagavad Gita 7.17, also Krishna says, Bhakti Yogis is the best and very dear to Krishna. Okay. So of these, the one who is full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him and he is very dear to me. Okay. So how do we practice Bhakti Yoga? By surrendering our senses and controlling our mind and senses and engaging in the pure devotional service of the Lord. Right. So when we are free from all contaminations of material desires, the distress, the inquisitive and the seeker after supreme knowledge can all become pure devotees. So we have to figure out how we can be freed from contaminations of material desires. But out of them, who is in the knowledge of the absolute truth and free from all material desires becomes a real pure devotee of the Lord. You know, that's what Krishna says here. So for example, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, he says, Goswamis, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj and even Srila Prabhupada, they admit that people have material needs that they are addicted to, but they are always aiming towards pure devotional service. They are not giving a wiggle room for people to be attached to material desires. So if throughout our 24/7 is dedicated in the service of the Lord with pure devotional service, then we will not have any room for material desires and material enjoyment. So also in Bhagavad Gita 4.3.1, so Krishna consciousness is therefore the solution to all problems of material existence. You know, Krishna says, "O best of Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next?" Okay, so that means we have to have tapasya. Okay, we'll talk about what are the tapasyas. So perfection is achieved by performance of yajna, which is sacrifice. Okay, there are two things: penance and tapasya. Okay, and also there are different grades of material comforts in different heavenly planets. So we are in the middle of the universe, earthly planet, and there are few planets below the earthly planet and few planets above the earthly planet, right? So in different planets also in the universe, there are different material comforts, and in all cases there is immense happiness for persons engaged in different kinds of yajna. Okay, but by the highest kind of happiness that a man can achieve is to be prompted to the spiritual planets by practice of Krishna consciousness. Okay, a life of Krishna consciousness is therefore the solution to all problems of material existence. So ultimately, that is the Krishna consciousness is the key to all the problems of material existence, and that is the only way through the process of practicing Krishna consciousness and Bhakti Yoga and surrendering our mind and senses to the service of the Lord, we can only go back to the spiritual kingdom, Goloka. That is the essence of the this particular verse. But although material people have minimal material desires, they cannot let go, right? So we all have some desires, we have to fulfill them. So our acharyas are not leaving room for complacency. So that is why this process of Krishna consciousness, from the time you start your day, from the time to end your day, and even during the night, this is a very process that has been given by Srila Prabhupada to all the, the whole world. So that way we can practice it and then we can aspire to go to the kingdom of God. So they are not leaving room for complacency of with this idea that you have certain needs, you can go and get them. It is okay to have few material desires that you cannot hold on to. Okay, but one must give up all material desires ultimately once you start practicing Krishna consciousness. So the sooner the better. Krishna consciousness is a gradual process, but you cannot stop striving for pure devotional service, and this is the point that has to be emphasized. So ultimately, our journey started somewhere, right? Through association, through books, through prasadam, or through different forms. So when we started our journey, it is okay to have material desire, but at the same time, ultimately we have to get our journey to a point where we surrender our material desires and always surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord, through the process of Krishna consciousness. And it's a gradual process. So even though a person may be in full knowledge and he is not this body, but this is transcendental to the body, but still may not be able to discriminate between the soul and the super soul. So however, he can know everything well if he cares to take the shelter of the perfect bona fide Krishna consciousness spiritual master. Right? So knowledge has to be given to us by a bona fide spiritual master. And Srila Prabhupada has come to this Western world to preach this Krishna consciousness movement. And that's why we are all fortunate, in this world to practice Krishna consciousness, even though we are far away from our land that we were born, basically. So one can know God and one's relationship with God only when one actually meets a representative of the God. And here Srila Prabhupada came as a representative of the Lord to preach Krishna consciousness. And now we are fortunate to have many gurus and spiritual masters in our movement. Through them, we can take association to learn Krishna consciousness, gradual process. A representative of God never claims that he is God, although he is paid all the respect ordinarily paid to God because he has knowledge of God. So one has to learn the distinction between God and the living entity. Okay, so even though we pay our respects, but still he is a representative of the God, all the spiritual masters. And the goal of Krishna consciousness is to give up all the material sense gratification, and it's not to maintain certain desires because he is not willing to give up, right? So unless we gradually give up the material desires, we cannot make progress in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so far we are learning Krishna consciousness is a gradual process. Then Krishna consciousness is about practicing Bhakti Yoga. And practicing Bhakti Yoga means using our mind and senses in the service of the Lord to attain pure devotional service. And when we practice this, and the knowledge that we get, like the soul and the super soul and the Paramatma, is through the bona fide spiritual masters. Okay, Srila Prabhupada and all the spiritual masters. And we have to apply that knowledge and make this journey so that we can go back to Godhead. So it is okay to still have material desires, but at the same time, the material, ultimately we have to come out of the material desire. But if the material desire is also used in the service of the Lord, then that is the ultimate goal. We can attain Krishna consciousness and attain the Supreme Lord abodes. So here, let's talk about tapasya, right? So there is two things, penance and tapasya. So we have to accept tapasya in Krishna consciousness. So what are the four regulated principles we have? No meditating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex. So these are all tapasyas. Even we practice Ekadasi, it's a tapasya, right? We fast from grains on Ekadashi day. Yeah, we'll come to that. So by penance, only one can even approach the personality of Godhead, who is within the heart of every living entity, and at the same time, beyond the reach of all senses. So there is penance, right? So the penance is a self-inflicted painful activity for eradicating sins committed. That's the definition of penance. So even though you're not in Krishna consciousness, there are people who practice penance and austerities because of maybe fear, because of fear of God, or they're pious from their past life and they want to eradicate their sins that are committed. It's a self-driven activity. Yeah, of course, it will be painful because there is no knowledge behind that penance. Because the knowledge is only like fear, or okay, I want to eradicate my sins. Okay, so it's a self-inflicted painful activity for eradicating sins committed. Whereas tapasya is a voluntarily performing activities for purification. Okay, so the difference is when you are doing something because of fear, yes, of course, you don't know what the journey is. Like maybe you'll feel happy for a moment, but at the same time, like, that person who is doing penance, the devotee, they may not understand the purification process. And that is where Srila Prabhupada has given us this tapasya, where we are actually understanding the process of Krishna consciousness and we are applying those principles and knowledge in day to day, and then we are able to purify ourselves. So understanding Bhakti Yoga, what is Bhakti Yoga? Understanding pure devotional service, understanding bona fide spiritual master, and understanding Supreme Lord, the Lord Krishna, and also understanding Goloka, which is a spiritual kingdom. So this is the knowledge we all have attained through the process of tapasya. And then when we implement this tapasya, we will get to the process of purification. So ultimately, surrendering our mind and senses in the, not surrendering to sense gratification, but surrendering them into the process of Krishna consciousness, process of pure devotional service. Okay. So in penance, yes, God realization comes in both penance and tapasya also. But for God realization, people have to undergo severe types of penances, and at the present moment, we are so fallen, right? So we cannot tolerate even the 4 basic principles. It's very difficult. So that is why we are imposing tapasya on us. And the tapasya is meant for advancing in Krishna consciousness. Okay. So that we understand the process of purification. Does it make sense? Any questions, thoughts?
Well, yeah, one thought comes to me is that when you say tapasya, involuntarily accepting something for purification, the activities, but it's
voluntarily performing activities for purification.
But it doesn't feel austerity or tapasya. Following purification was a big deal. It's not feeling like tapasya. So does it mean that the purification has already happened? Or
No. See, Krishna consciousness is a gradual process, right? So we are following the tapasya as a gradual process. So we have to, it's not like, we just follow this and then we are surrendered. Even after many years or even months, there are devotees who fall when they are not able to practice the 4 regulated principles.
Another definition Prabhupada gives on the tapasya also is in voluntarily accepting inconveniences to the body.
Yeah. So involuntarily accepting, voluntarily accepting
inconvenience
to the body.
So that is tapasya.
Yeah. Like if you see one of the example, like even when New Vrindavan was built in the early stages, there were devotees. There was no water, there was no electricity. And devotees took bath with snow and ice, frozen ice. Yeah. So that is tapasya too. Yeah. So anything that we are doing in Krishna consciousness is a tapasya. I mean, the way I understood, like penance and tapasya. So penance is something that you are doing it by yourself to eradicate some sins, right? It's not that like, there are people who are not in Krishna consciousness. They are also aware of, what sin means, right? They are aware of some karma, past karma, bad karma, good karma and everything, right? So they are also practicing certain things. They are enforcing on themselves so that they can come out of these sins that are committed. But at the same time, the knowledge of Krishna consciousness and the basis is not there. But why they are doing? Because they want to eradicate. But what is the real process is to purify. When you purify, then your senses are in alignment to the service of the Lord. So when the services are done in the alignment of the senses and mind, then the Lord, God realization is also coming to the body. So we know about God during that process. Yeah.
Also reminds me of a point of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So, like you said, Ekadashi is also tapasya, right?
Mm-hmm.
But our movement, it's of course tapasya means, like okay, it is a byproduct of preaching.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, when he said that okay, his disciples are fasting on Ekadashi and not praying, he said no, just break your fast, eat something, eat whatever in the kitchen, and then go out and preach.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then he said no, not to do that type of tapasya.
Mm-hmm. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj said not to do.
No, he said right, the disciples were fasting
Mm-hmm.
on Ekadashi.
Mm-hmm.
So then he said, no, what are you doing? This is a preaching movement.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just sit and do tapasya.
Mm-hmm.
All this austerities is not going to take you back and back to life. So you go out and preach.
Mm-hmm.
So you can eat whatever is in the kitchen, you eat, and then
Yeah, but still we fast from grains, right? So so that is the basic principle. But again, depends on everybody's body condition. Of course, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj was
no, he didn't say not to follow Ekadashi. He
Mm.
emphasized that okay, it's preaching mission.
preaching. Yeah, his emphasis was more on the preaching. Yeah,
Right.
Mhm. Yeah. That's tapasya too. This process of Krishna consciousness. If Prabhupada, came to this, Western world to preach, right? So, and now we are, we are 50, 60 years past ISKCON, and at the same time, we have more facilities, more temples. Coming to temple is also a tapasya. Right? We have more preaching centers. We have more bhakti vrikshas happening. So that means we have accessibility to more resources than what even Srila Prabhupada had 60 years back, or even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj had maybe 100, 125 years back, 150 years back. So that's a journey. So we have to relate to where we are today versus relating ourselves to, 100 years, 200 years back. But the concept, yes, following Ekadashi is given. But during Ekadashi, fasting is recommended. And whether fasting can be done by throughout the day with nirjal, some bodies may accommodate, some bodies may not accommodate. But the essence is we follow Ekadashi, fast from gains, and do chant more, read books, and preach. So that's how my understanding is basically. Yeah. So, any other questions, bro? Shubha, bro.
No, this is very clear.
So ultimately, how will we get liberated from to the Goloka? Is to practice Krishna consciousness. And practicing Krishna consciousness means surrendering our mind and senses to the service of the Lord. And also following regulated principles, because Srila Prabhupada has established this movement in a very defined process, following regulated principles and also chanting. So chanting is the key. In this age of Kali, that is what can bring us close to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even in this purport also, there is a discussion about the eightfold mystic system, right? So even Hanuman is a best example. So he also followed the eightfold mystic system, but at the same time he used every process in the service of the Lord. Okay. So here Prabhupada writes in the purport of Bhagavad Gita, the eightfold yoga mysticism is automatically practiced in Krishna consciousness because the ultimate, I'll read from the beginning. So the more one is advanced, the more he is freed from the clutches of matter. The Lord is not partial toward anyone. Everything depends on one's practical performances of duties in Krishna consciousness, which helps one control the senses in every respect and conquer the influence of desire and anger. And one who stands fast in Krishna consciousness, controlling the above mentioned passions, remains factually in the transcendental stage or Brahma Nirvana. So the eightfold mysticism is automatically practiced in Krishna consciousness because the ultimate purpose is solved when you are already in the Krishna consciousness. So there is a gradual process of elevation in the practice of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana and samadhi. But these only preface perfection by devotional service, which alone can award peace to the human beings. It is the highest perfection of life. So in the age of Kali, practicing of Krishna consciousness is the only remedy to go back to Godhead. That's the ultimate conclusion of how we can get liberated, even though we are in this association of matter and we are having the material desires also. So ultimately we have to come to a stage where we migrate from the starting position to the ultimate goal of life, which is practice of Krishna consciousness. So anything you want to share, Alankar Prabhu?
Can you say that example of Hanuman about being a mysterious and still, what was it?
He was using all his mystic powers to the service of the Lord. Okay, I can read one example here.
Wondering why Krishna created this type of mystic powers. Was there a purpose?
Because there is even through mystic powers you can go to the higher planets, and in higher planets there's a different types of enjoyment, right? But within the same universe you have higher planets and lower planets.
Right. So what I'm asking is that
why Krishna created the mystic powers.
what is the use or doesn't look like it's like some mistake.
Okay, I'm just pulling in the Hanuman story here. It will be a little elaborate, but I think we have time. Do you have any time restrictions? So, okay, so this is the pastime of Sugriva, and I think it's very relevant to this topic also.
You can just say from the heart of you want to read.
Yeah, but I think it gives the more elaboration. Another 5 more minutes maybe. Yeah. So I think you all know about Bali, the Sugriva pastime. So why did there is questions, right? So Hanuman followed. So Sugriva was obedient, right? Day after day they were fighting, and Sugriva could not go in because it was the order of Bali. So then he heard the hideous wars of Rakshas sound and saw blood flowing out of the cave. Then there was silence. Then he was broken-hearted, and his beloved brother Bali was dead. So he put a huge rock in front of the cave, Sugriva, so that the demon could not get out. So he went back and told everyone. He was coordinated as the king. In the material world, he was trying to do some seva, basically. But Bali killed the demon, and Sugriva blocked Bali into the cave. Bali was really upset. So why my brother did this? I was in the war. It was not easy to moving that rock. Then he finally gets back. So he saw Sugriva sitting on the throne being worshipped. So Sugriva's motivation was in sadness, lamenting over Bali's death. So he was trying to protect Bali's citizens, Bali's interpretation. So why he was trying to lock me in? So he can exploit and take everything I have. So there was a big fight, and due to course of Matanga Rishi, Sugriva found shelter on the Rishyamukha mountain. So he was living there. So now Hanuman followed behind him. So he was faithful. So why did not Hanuman join Bali? Even though he was the king. So why did not Hanuman kill Bali? He had the power to do so. So why he just followed exile with Sugriva? So Rama is asking this question and Agastya Muni is answering. Okay, very beautiful answer here. So he explained, Agastya Muni explained why Hanumanji was forgetful. Begins by talking about the great mountain Sumeru. So there is a story, and Agastya Muni also explains again Anjana and then Surya. So that whole pastime is there. I'll come back to the essence here. As Hanumanji so he got a blessing. Hanuman gets a blessing. So Indra put a flawless garland from his own neck on Hanuman and he said, I bless you, Hanuman, that even my thunderbolt will not be able to harm you. Every limb of your body will be stronger than my thunderbolt. Okay. So those are some blessings he gets during that process. And he was getting so many boons from different devatas, from Varuna and Kuvera. Yeah, so Rama asked and Agastya Muni was explaining that Hanuman lived, and because Sugriva was the son of Surya, the Amsa. Okay, so when Hanuman asked, can I give you Dakshina for so long you taught me everything about knowledge and academic scriptures? Surya said that always be a friend at the side of my son Sugriva. That's the reason Hanuman followed Sugriva. So Hanuman was loyal and he was faithful. He would rather be vanished in exile and have everything taken away than do not be loyal to Sugriva. This was another quality of Hanuman, absolutely loyalty. But since his childhood, he never knew he had power because nobody ever reminded him. So he was living like a regular banner, very strong. So that's one of the tapasya he was exhibiting. Eightfold mystics. But he did not remember, right? But he still was being loyal. He remembered the word that he gave to Surya. Because Surya asked Hanuman to be friend at the side of his son all the time, which is Sugriva. Okay, Chanak Prabhu, would you like to share anything?
What I said, he already doing the work.
So there are some key things, just points to consider. I'll just quickly go from this particular verse. So in the upper planetary systems, there are facilities thousands and thousands of times greater for material enjoyments than in the lower planetary systems. That part we understood, right? So the inhabitants of those planets are empowered with eightfold achievements of mystic perfection. They do not have to learn and practice the mystic process of yoga perfection. So that's the difference from earthly planet to the higher planets. So the inhabitants of the earth cannot move even to the nearest planet except by mechanical vehicles like spacecraft. But the highly talented inhabitants of such higher planets can do everything very easily. Okay. So the prime inclination of the materialistic mind is to lord it over the material world, and all the siddhis mentioned above are features of domination over the world. Okay. So with the materialistic mind, one can reach the best planet in the universe. If you have material desires, you can also go to Indraloka and all the different lokas. But no one can enter into the kingdom of God with the materialistic desire and materialistic mind. So only process to enter into Goloka is through the process of Krishna consciousness, pure devotional service, bhakti yoga, surrendering our senses towards the surrendering our senses to the Lord, mind and senses, and not surrendering to sense gratification. So he who is in the knowledge of the absolute truth and free from all material desires becomes a really pure devotee of the Lord. That's ultimate thing. And we read some verses from Bhagavad Gita also. So Krishna consciousness will certainly drive away all nations as the sun drives away darkness. We believe. So one can know God and one's relationship with God only when one actually meets a representative of God. So we talked about like bona fide spiritual master, right? So identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. So, and by penance, one can even approach the personality of Godhead who is within the heart of every living entity and at the same time beyond the reach of all senses. So we talked about penance and tapasya. So if you want advancement in spiritual life, we must accept some sort of tapasya. So the items of tapasya and Krishna consciousness are 4 regulative principles, and one has to strictly follow the vows of initiation, gradually leave all the material desires that one has, and always aim for pure devotional service as instructed by our acharyas. Okay. And due to the living entity's desire to enjoy himself in competition with Krishna, the living entity comes into material existence. That's the reason we fall from the spiritual kingdom. So any living entity who forgets his eternal relationship with Krishna is under the sway of the material condition. Bereft of the Lord's transcendental loving service, he is subjected to the reactions of fruitive activity. When he is elevated to the higher planetary systems due to the worldly pious activities, he considers himself well situated. But when he is subjected to punishment, he thinks himself is improperly situated. I mean, with the material desires and with the mystic powers, you can also go to the elevated planets. But there also, like, you may feel like it's an enjoyment, but it's also, he is also subjected to punishment there. The only place you're not subjected to punishment is Goloka, where you're constantly in the association of Krishna. So thus, material nature awards and punishes the living entity. When the living entity is materially opulent, material nature is rewarding him. When he is materially embarrassed, material nature is punishing him. That's what we learn. And then the final conclusion, the highest kind of happiness that a man can achieve is to be prompted to the spiritual planets by practicing of Krishna consciousness. A life of Krishna consciousness is therefore the solution to all problems of material existence. That's the conclusion. Okay. Anything you want to share, bro?
I think you covered it. But yeah, it's when you say devotional service, it actually, I'm guessing you mean pure devotional service.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's a devotee, pure devotee.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And even in this also that because previous I was reading that
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the devotees of the Lord are not ambitious to dominate for false and temporary phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
But here, because we can all say we are also devotees, but we don't have that quality. We
Yeah.
like to dominate, and we have to have that, the presence, false ego.
Yeah.
So it's we are in the process of purification.
Yeah. So that is why, like, Krishna consciousness is a gradual process.
It is a gradual process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the question? What's
No,
Right.
just a comment.
comment? Okay.
That it's we have to keep that in the face. It's pure
Yes.
service. Someone
Mhm.
might ask, okay, I'm performing devotional service, but why I still have material desires? Why my
Exactly.
senses are not controlled?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because we are not doing pure devotional service. We
Mhm.
are doing mixed bhakti.
Excellent. Yeah. And again, there are different stages, right? Like a transcendental stage, Uttamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari. Yeah. So we have Bhajana Kriya, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, and Ananta Nivritti. So I think like most of us, like, are stuck in that Ananta Nivritti where we are constantly,
And we will say most of us are stuck in Shraddha.
Shraddha. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's the 9 processes of devotional service. So that's like kind of a barometer or a measure for devotees to see, like, where we are. Like, in Madhuri Kadambani, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about the 9 processes of devotional service and what kind of things we have to do to overcome and to make progress into the next stage. So ultimately our stage is to go into the prema bhakti. So bhava and prema. So to get to that, there is a process. And we have to follow the process through the association of devotees and a bona fide spiritual master. And through the bona fide knowledge that has been presented to all of us. Yeah. Is it good? Okay. Hare Krishna. Yeah, yes, Prabhu.
When we first actually to yesterday's presentation, I know you were there. There was a discussion and a statement made about how devotees presentation and for instance, if a devotee is taking sustenance from outside, so to say, Krishna's graces, and they shouldn't be wearing tulsi leaves because they're representing Krishna, but they're actually going outside and taking.
So they're not following the regulated principles.
So I guess that falls under being surrendered to Krishna. I guess I don't know which one of the regular principles does that actually negate or break, to take sustenance from outside. Which of those regular principles does that break? But what was mentioned was you shouldn't be wearing a tulsi leaf, if you're doing this. So my question is, Prabhupada brought the level down as low as we can to 16, but some personalities and even management feels that they can bring it even further down. We're aware of Krishna House and the practices. So my question is, where does Agnita Sukriti come in, where a devotee is following a pure devotee's instructions to distribute the reading material of Krishna consciousness, and they're out in the field and they take some sustenance. They're out in the cold and they have a hot chocolate.
Yeah.
And so somebody can sit there and say, you shouldn't be wearing tulsi leaves because you just are not surrendered to Krishna. I don't know I don't think it's any of the freeing principles that you're breaking by taking sustenance. Yeah. It's not being surrendered, and now you can't wear tilak. I mean, can you elaborate on that? That's actually the rules of Agnita Sukriti.
Yeah.
I can go anywhere as long as it's in Krishna's service and do anything as long as it's in Krishna's service. I'm actually following a pure devotee's, excuse me, it's not me, it's any devotee. I'm actually following a pure devotee's instructions to propagate Krishna consciousness, but I shouldn't be wearing tilak when I'm doing this. Does this equate, or am I?
Yeah. So maybe Chanak Prabhu, I think you have better experience, if you can go first and reflect on it.
I don't really see the clarity in what you wanted to say.
I think in yesterday's discussion, there was a context on like Vaishnava etiquette and Vaishnava lifestyle.
Okay.
So if you are not following the regulated principles, then you should not be wearing kantimala and tilak. Yeah. So that was the thought process. So Prabhu is asking, like, when you go, you're following Srila Prabhupada's instructions, you're following the senior devotees' instructions, going for book distribution. And like sometimes, like, you may end up like, like a hot chocolate was a best example.
Okay.
So how do you, then that means then we should not be wearing tilak and kandimala,
You have to wear kantimala, you have to wear tilak if you want. You have to. Because even the person who is wearing tilak and wearing kantimala, he's doing so many things, so many whimsical things, which nobody is telling him about. The only whimsical thing the person is doing, maybe he took some chocolate somewhere else. That's not a thing that stops one from wearing. Actually, Srila Prabhupada, I want people to wear tilak, to wear kantimala. That will help the person, remind the person of the need to follow the principles, the need to try to be devotee, like that. But if one is grossly, sinful, then he should not be wearing such things because it misrepresents the mission and the process of devotional service. Just like, somebody who's committing crime and wearing, police uniform and all that, it's not proper. But one who's an aspiring devotee, who is, trying his best, he should wear these things. That will encourage him to make progress in devotional service. Wear tilak and wear kantimala and all that. He should do that. It's not a sin. It's not sin to wear such things and then not following completely very strict as a Vaishnava. Most of us are not even following very strict as Vaishnavas, so why are we wearing it? Yeah. This is all. That is it. One should not knowingly commit offenses, commit sin. That's all. But there are certain needs, certain exigencies one may have to do at certain times. But that doesn't mean that it's sinful. One should not commit sinful activities knowingly, like that. For instance, somebody maybe representing the particular organization, like, wearing this thing. In India, many people wear kantimala, wear tilak, they're living their lives, ordinary lives, But sometimes those things reminds another person as a devotee, reminds the person about Krishna and all that, even though he himself is not really following, but it reminds another person, the process of devotional service, and they need to, think about Krishna. So it's not, considered to be very, very sinful. I see.
Does that help, bro? Yeah, I want to share, but go ahead, Alankar, bro. You want to share something?
Yeah, I was just thinking of, one devotee I heard that how he said that Krishna he cares for our actions, but more than that, he cares for our intentions. So, like in your example, Subhasaka Prabhu, that somebody is preaching and now it's so cold and somebody has to eat hot chocolate, which is outside and may not be offered to Krishna, and you are offering in mind, which mind is not so pure, how it's even offered, but you are still having it. So now it's which offense it is or what regular you consider. But if the intention is that you are going out and preaching, now in that, Krishna is seeing that more than the rules and regulations that are being followed or not. So yeah, even that reminds me of one more place where Prabhupada says that. So he quotes this word "yena kena prakarena," like somehow or the other, engage your mind in this in service of Krishna. And now, does it mean that somebody is maybe breaking 4 regulatory principles which are already described? If that's the case, then maybe somebody should be very cautious of not wearing kantimala, because yesterday Prabhu also said, right, that can add offenses. But if somebody is in the borderline, like there is no black or white, there are gray areas, and I think this, even if somebody is eating outside, things not offered, maybe something with onion, garlic, based on time, place, circumstances, it's still people should wear kantimala and tulsi, this tulsi, kantimala and tilak, because it's you are out there and you are doing your service. It's not that you are doing, but if you are doing it for sense gratification, right? If somebody is like, no, I'm just gonna go out today and have hot tea, hot chocolate. So now the intention is maybe not there, but even after that, it's not. I don't see how that's not allowed you to wear your kantimala or tulsi or a tilak. You wanted to add something?
Yeah. So again, I'll just share my realization. So yes, when we make our first step, right, like through devotees association or through prasadam or through books, right, then we show our endeavor to the next step. So as we make some steps, so when we come to the path of following regulated principles and at least acting in Krishna consciousness way, right, action in Krishna consciousness. So because we all act, right? We act so that like we can make money, right? Every day is an action from our life. So when you act in Krishna consciousness way, at least get to that level where you're at least following the regulated principles. And then I think, wearing tilak and kantimala and showing that yes, I'm aspiring to be a devotee is important. Because the more we show, like, when we go on the dhoti and the tilak and go and distribute books versus somebody, on the road coming and saying, hey, here is a book, like, so obviously like the our presence and our appearance impresses others, right? Ultimately, Paramatma is there in everybody's heart, right? So somebody who sees like, he's doing this seva, he may not understand the Krishna consciousness philosophy, but he may come and get attracted to your action and presence to come and approach and have a conversation about Krishna consciousness, right? So that's how I look at it. But yes, I mean, if we are wearing kantimala and we are already in a stage of, like madhyamadhikari, like, where you have the knowledge, you're initiated or you're aspiring for initiation, but still you're trying to commit, over the four regulated principles, you're not able to follow, you're going and eating meat somewhere else. So then those kind of things definitely will impact, because we are ultimately increasing our bank balance of sins. So our process of Krishna consciousness is how we can eradicate our sins and focus our mind and senses. But in your example, like a book distribution, you're following the instructions, going and taking a hot chocolate. I don't think that's, it's that offensive, because you're still in the mood of, Krishna consciousness, distributing books. But because of some, conditions, and you're offering whatever you're taking, like something, a fruit or something. So there are devotees who are very rigid, like, they maintain themselves very well. And wherever they go, they only have like packed prasadam. They take it at home. But there are devotees like, practical application is also important. So when you look at it, like, we travel around the world, like every time you don't get a, prasadam, right? You're in the flight, 24-hour or 22-hour flight. So you don't get prasadam all the time, but we offer whatever we have, right? Nowadays it's becoming flexible.
Those strict devotees, they carry also.
Yeah, they carry. Like I know a few devotees in my hometown, and whether it is a flight or anywhere they go, right? Bus, train, whatever journey they make, they always have prasadam in their bag. Or they will at least sustain with dry fruits and nuts. Sometimes, I mean, even hot water, like, with some sort of like herbal tea. So there are alternatives, but if there's nothing is available, like, I mean, it's not like we are, unless we go and eat meat from somewhere while you're doing this, book distribution, that is completely an offense. There is no doubt about it. Yeah. So we just have to be a little more practical. That's the essence. Are you satisfied with the answer, Prabhu? Yeah. Okay.
Then Krishna Bhagavatam.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Jai.